Hi, my name's Mitch with Youth English School. Welcome to this lesson on some useful and common phrases for English communication. This kind of practice will help you improve your English no matter why you're studying it, whether you're planning to study abroad, preparing for tests like the IELTS, or you just like to improve your spoken everyday English. Before I begin, I'd like to start with a couple of jokes in English. Do you know any jokes in English? I love jokes. Here are a couple of jokes. They're called alphabet jokes. Do you know the alphabet? The alphabet in English is the ABCs. So these are jokes about letters in the English alphabet. Okay? Are you ready? Here we go. What letter in the English alphabet is an insect? An insect. B. B sounds like a bee, right? B-E-E. That's the joke. You get it? Let's try one more. What letter in the English alphabet is a body of water? A body of water. C. S-E-A, right? C. Okay. We'll do some more alphabet jokes later on in the video, or maybe next time. Let's begin with opinions, agreeing and disagreeing. So we're going to practice giving opinions and agreeing and disagreeing about opinions, right? Opinions. What do you think, what you feel, and what you believe? Let's begin. So here on the first slide, you see asking someone for their opinion. So if you want to ask someone for their opinion, we're going to use what questions, right? Question words like what and how. What is a very common one. What do you think? What do you think of his new book? What do you think of his new girlfriend? What do you think? So, think. What do you feel? What do you believe? Those are really common for opinions, right? How do you feel about? How do you feel about? A little different. How do you feel? How do you feel about working with the others? Now, I might take out the and just say working with others. That sounds more natural, more conversational. Remember, when you're practicing spoken English, you want to go for informal, friendly, casual type language. And I might take that out. There's a little difference, but in spoken or oral English, often native speakers will use them kind of interchangeably. What do you think? What do you think of his new girlfriend? Or how do you feel about his new girlfriend? But this is really more about feelings and emotions, more connected to that. What do you think about cosmetic surgery? What do you think about cosmetic surgery? Introducing your own opinion when you want to tell someone what you think, what you feel, what you believe. Negative over here and positive over here, right? I don't think it's a good idea. I think Paula was probably right. Also, you can use a standard phrase for giving opinions. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, for me, to me, things like that. In my opinion, we need to change the direction of the company. So that's giving and introducing opinions, right? Introducing and giving opinions. Now, when we give opinions, sometimes we have very strong opinions. When we feel very strongly about something, and we use these kinds of words. What kind of word is brilliant? I thought it was a brilliant idea. Well, you know, a little grammar there and vocabulary. Brilliant is an adjective. It's used to describe something. Very, very, very great, brilliant, wonderful, terrific, fantastic, things like that. She thought the pictures were disgusting. Disgusting. That's a very negative word. Remember that these kinds of adjectives also, as you've seen in the previous lesson, they have positive and negative meanings. Also neutral. Some of these words are very neutral. Neither positive or negative. His plan is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. And I think it's a really original book. Really an original book. When you use these kinds of adjectives, they're usually stressed. We usually put a little stress in our intonation. I think it's a really original book, right? Okay. Giving the opinion of others. When you tell someone what other people think, what other people believe, okay? We use according to. That's a very common expression or phrase in English, according to. According to my teacher, according to the newspaper, according to the TV news report, things like that. According to the newspaper, she knew nothing about it. Now, be careful here, because sometimes there is a difference between opinion and fact. If it's a newspaper, very, very commonly or often, that's more of a fact than an opinion, right? But the newspaper is attributing or giving saying that's someone else's opinion. The newspaper says the president knew 2 weeks ago. The newspaper says the president knew 2 weeks ago. This would also be a kind of reported speech, right? Reported speech, saying what someone else says or someone else said. All right? Let's turn the slide. Turn the page, I should say. Turn the page. Now, we're going to talk about agreeing with someone or agreeing with other people here. I think we should put the money in the bank. Right? I think we should do something. And you agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you, right? Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're right or absolutely right. Again, a little stress, a little intonation there. I think you're absolutely right. Also, we can look at disagreeing with other people or with someone. When you disagree, but not completely, right? There might be something that you think might be okay, or you don't feel really that strongly about disagreeing with that opinion. You know, this is very common in business English, or when you want to be polite, or you want to be agreeable, right? When you're working with people or talking with someone. I see what you mean, but... Yeah, I see what you mean, but... this is also kind of when you don't agree, but you're being more polite, I think. Yeah, I take your point, but... This is often also called a kind of a contradiction, to contradict an opinion. But you do it in a nice way. I see what you mean, but here's what I think, right? Let's turn the page. Now, when you give a different opinion, here's some language that you can use when you're doing that for different situations. So, possibly is also a good word there. Yeah, possibly. But don't you think, again, when you don't totally disagree with someone, but you really think you do disagree a little, and you'd like to also give your opinion or make your point about something. Yes, perhaps, maybe, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah, perhaps, but I'm not so sure about that. And yes, you could be right, but don't you forget, or don't forget. don't forget about this, right? Okay. If you disagree with someone completely, you feel really strongly about that, here's some language for you to use. Again, as I mentioned before, this is very common business type language here, right? Or when friends are talking and discussing something. But you have to be a little careful with this kind of language because it's very strong and it can, maybe make people feel bad, right? You have to be careful. Or it can kind of cause a fight or maybe a little confrontation or an argument. Maybe, but not always. You can also give a strong opinion if you really feel that way about something. I totally disagree. I'm afraid I don't agree with you at all. I'm afraid I don't agree with you at all about that. You're completely wrong about that, right? Some children having a little spat, a little fight there. And I would say that this language really is more for adult situations than for children. Okay, we're going to move into our exercise part of the lesson. I'll do the first one for you. The first one, A, and I'll let you have a try to answer the rest of the exercises while we do the video here. Number 1, are you ready? Complete these questions in 3 different ways to ask people their opinion. How about A? What do you remember the question word? What do you, that's right, think. What do you think about these shoes? What do you think of these shoes? Do they look okay? Okay, I'll give you a chance to do B, C, and number 2. Oh, no, actually, just do B and C, okay? Try to do B and C, and we'll take a look at this together, all right? I'll be right back. All right, we'll look quickly at these answers, and then we'll talk about this together before we move on. What do you think? How or what? Now, I think in oral English, it's probably okay to use either one, but this answer is how. Actually, no, sorry, I'm wrong. There might be little distinctions, small distinctions in the language. But I think both really are okay. The answer here, what or how. What do you think or how do you feel about? Both I think are okay there. And here, what do you think about? How do you feel about? Very close, very similar. The answer we have here is how. How do you feel about having more responsibility? Which is a little bit more of emotion and feeling, right? But it's very, very close. Okay, we're going to look at these. What kind of words are these? Adjectives, that's right. Adjectives. These are really great to learn and practice and use in your English. They're a little difficult to remember, but once you remember them and use them, they're a great way to describe things. And also, of course, to give your opinions about things, especially if you have strong feelings about things. Disgusting. Disgusting. You might want to say that with me. Remember, when you practice in the video lessons, you can also practice your pronunciation a bit. Disgusting. 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 What do you think? Well, that's a negative, right? That's a negative word. Let's go down here to terrible. Something that's terrible and very unpleasant is disgusting. Very often, we use disgusting to talk about food, maybe people, places, maybe something or someone that you just really think is terrible, very unpleasant, something you just really don't like. Take a look at ridiculous. Ridiculous. Can you say that? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Original. 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 And brilliant. 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 Okay? Take a minute or a second there. Well, if you're just becoming familiar with these adjectives or whether you know them, it really makes a difference, doesn't it? Because when you're just starting to learn new words, especially adjectives, it just takes a bit of time to learn what they mean, right? Ridiculous. Something that's absurd. Absurd means really just crazy. Unbelievably strange, maybe. And stupid, right? Ridiculous and stupid. Absurd and stupid. Original. What does that mean? Original. That's right. Very good. Something that's new and different. And the last one, brilliant. Brilliant. That also is a synonym, a word that has the same or similar meaning in English, a synonym for fantastic. You'll often find that with adjectives, there are often synonyms, other words in English, that have similar meanings, or sometimes the same meaning. Okay? Let's do some gap fill in this exercise. Fill in the gaps with a suitable word from the opposite page, right? From the adjectives that we just looked at. What do you think about? What do you think about the film? Well, what do you think goes here? I'll give you a second to take a look at that, and I'll come back and give you the answers. Okay, sometimes this can be a little more difficult. This is an opinion word. Personally, for me, right? Personally, which means something that you think about is in terms of an opinion. For me, to me, often we use those. Personally, I didn't like it. Number 2, this is the attribution, remember? Often used when we talk about newspapers and television, magazines, often reported speech. Starts with an A. You got it? According to the radio this morning, we won't know the result until tomorrow. Yes, I take your point. I take your point. Which means I take your reason or I take your opinion, but I still think the book was too long. So that's when you don't totally disagree with someone. You'd also like to express what you think about something. Number 4, it's another word for completely. Totally. I totally disagree with her, which is unusual. This means what? If it's unusual that I totally disagree with someone, what does that mean? Yeah, it means usually I agree with that person, but this time I totally disagree. Totally is also a common word for young people in my country, in America. You can hear this word in speech and dialogue in movies with young people all the time. I totally, dude, totally, oh, totally. So it's kind of almost slang now in my country for meaning someone who really thinks something is completely good or bad. Totally good or bad. I know she has very strong opinions. She has very strong opinions on this subject. She talks about it all the time. So again, she has very strong feelings or opinions. Works there. Let's go on to our last slide for this lesson. This time, let's rewrite some sentences using the words here in red on the right of the sentence or maybe below the sentence. But remember, the meaning should be the same. So this is so common in English, in the English language. There is often more than one way to express an idea or say something. I think you're right. So what's the answer here? I think you're right. I'll let you take a look, and I'll come back with the answers. How did you do? Well, just do your best. That's always the best advice, I think. Do your best and learn and practice English as much as you can. And remember that practice makes perfect, right? So, of course, the first one we did with you, I agree with you. This is an opinion. I think the club needs new players. I think the club needs new players. So we say, in my opinion, here. I totally disagree with you. I totally disagree with you. What do you think? Well, I don't agree with you at all. I don't agree with you at all. It means the same thing. The newspaper says terrorists started the fire. The newspaper says terrorists started the fire, according to the newspaper, right? According to the newspaper. Yes, I have your point, or I take your point, but I'm not sure I agree. Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean, but I don't agree with you. How do you feel about giving children more freedom? How do you feel about that? What do you think, right? What do you think about that? So, what did we learn today, or what have we learned today? Well, we looked at some common and useful phrases in English. We looked at some expressions that you can use for giving opinions, agreeing and disagreeing. I hope you enjoyed the lesson and that you were able to practice and improve your English with me today. Remember to check out the quiz at the end of the video. My name is Mitch with Youth English School. Thank you for watching and see you next time.